For most of human history, extreme poverty wasn't seen as a problem to solve, but an inescapable law of nature. Thinkers like Thomas Malthus insisted that some human beings must suffer from want, while Herbert Spencer cast destitution as a simple matter of the survival of the fittest. At the turn of the last millennium, the world opted to challenge that pessimism. 189 member states of the United Nations set a massive target to cut the share of people living in extreme poverty to half of its 1990 level by the year 2015. Astonishingly, the world met that goal and then some. 1.2 billion people escaped penury in just 25 years, driven largely by explosive economic growth in China, India, and Indonesia. This era suggested that extreme poverty wasn't a permanent condition of humanity. It looked like a mechanical problem that could simply be outgrown through national miracles. But miracles are hard to repeat. Since 2015, the pace of poverty reduction has slowed to a crawl, roughly a quarter of its previous speed, leaving about 830 million people destitute today. The remaining poverty is now concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. In nations like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, and Nigeria, population growth is outstripping the old playbook of providing aid in the hopes of sparking a growth miracle. This diagram represents the actual mathematical gap between what the world's poorest people have and what they need to survive. If we had perfect information about every individual's income, it would only cost $90 billion a year to push everyone over the poverty line. Because we have the money but don't know where it needs to go, ending poverty has transitioned from a challenge of wealth into a challenge of data. The massive bottleneck in global aid is a lack of information. Governments often don't know exactly who is falling below the poverty line, or by how much. One approach is a Universal Basic Income, or UBI. This attempt to bypass the data problem involves giving a flat payment to absolutely everyone, regardless of what they earn. This chart compares that optimized $90 billion baseline against a universal model. Providing $2.15 a day to everyone would cost up to 3% of global GDP, a price tag that most developing nations simply cannot afford. To lower costs, over 130 countries use proxy means tests. Instead of measuring income directly, they use crude indicators like housing material or a person's distance from a market to guess who is poor. The failure rate is devastating. In some studies, these crude guesses missed 4/5 of the people living below the poverty line, while wrongly sending aid to half of those living above it. Neither blanket payments nor physical guesswork can clear the fight to deliver the cash we already have. A recent paper from Stanford University by Roshni Sahu and her colleagues proposes a different way forward, treating this information gap as a systems engineering challenge. Instead of relying on rigid, visible clues like the type of roof a person has, they deployed a machine learning algorithm to analyze imperfect real-world data. The algorithm processes fragmented data to assign dynamic, personalized transfers. Targeting the poverty gap, varying amounts perfectly fill the threshold. Scaled globally, eliminating poverty cost $466 billion, 0.5% of GDP, and far less than global alcohol spending or farm subsidies. Algorithmic distribution bridges the data gap, proving that targeted global cash transfers are a viable and affordable reality today. A data model cannot solve every problem. It cannot stop inflation, bypass regional conflict, or safely deliver cash in war-torn areas without infrastructure. But despite these physical hurdles, the Stanford paper highlights a profound shift. The path to making extreme poverty a thing of the past is far more defined than it was a decade ago. We no longer have to wait decades for complex growth miracles to happen. The solution is becoming a matter of logistics rather than a mystery of economics. The public may already be ready for this. A survey by Nobel Prize-winning economists Esther Duflo and Abhijit Banerjee found that 60% of people in the rich world are willing to give up the required 0.5% of their income to end extreme poverty. Alfred Marshall once observed that eradicating poverty is less a dilemma for economics than it is for the moral and political capabilities of human nature. We have transitioned from an era of unavoidable tragedy to an era where the cost of ending poverty is known. We have the receipt. Now we just need the will to pay it.